Hi, Matt. My name is Peter Doyle, and I'm the CEO and Managing Director of Evolve Power Limited.
Peter, this is all news to me because last time we spoke, obviously at Montem Resources coal project, ASX sort of took issue with the some of the things that were going on up there in Alberta. Give me an update. Why Evolve? What's happening?
Yeah, sure, Matt. Well, what a journey how we've been on. So we were progressing quite nicely through 2018 through 2021, restarting a series of coal mines here in Alberta. Unfortunately, regulatory change impeded that to the point where we decided it was no longer worth the risk to keep investing in that. And in fact, we got stopped on all assets except for the 10 Mountain Mine. We're now, unfortunately, in a legal battle with the Albertan government to reclaim some of those losses, and they're significant. That's a series of court dates that are coming up, and that'll play out. In the meantime, we took the 10 Mountain Mine and we turned it into something else.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that in a second. So I need to deal with this. We haven't spoken in a while, right? So Albertan government have stopped you from developing your coal assets in Alberta. Not just you, but I get there's a bunch of coal companies is saying no coal production in Alberta, and that's come from where? I mean, how long ago were you first made aware that might be the case, and what was driving that?
Yeah, okay. It was a series of steps that the government, the Albertan government, made in 2021 and 2022. Early in 2022, I think it was February, they put a moratorium on any more work on our assets in Alberta and everybody else's, except for they designated 4 projects, of which we owned 1 that we could have continued. However, in the preceding that, the project next to ours, owned by Doyle Resources, the Reinhardt Mining Group, had been stopped in what they were doing in applying for a mine, and we got designated by the federal government to undertake a review under a piece of legislation that they had in place at the time that's subsequently been found by the Supreme Court of Canada to be unconstitutional. So a quagmire of regulatory change, disruption, and ultimately we're really beneficial, I suppose, of what we owned. We have a unique set of assets in that we own a bunch of land on and that is an old mine site at 10 Mountain, and we can do something else with it. And that's what we've chosen to do.
Right, okay. And we will get onto that, I promise you. So at the moment, your course of action, your decision has been to get after the Albertan provincial government for some compensation for loss of potential earnings, loss of potential market value or sale value. Is that the gist of it? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. So we're sort of fairly unique. Some of our other assets outside of 10 Mountain were freehold coal, and that's very historical. That's been in freehold for nearly or over 100 years in some cases. It's a large amount of hard coking coal on rail. That stuff's valuable. We also have a large amount of leasehold coal. As I said before, there's a moratorium on doing any of those, of using that. So we've launched a legal claim against the government for several $billion of lost assets. So they have effectively taken our assets. We can't use them. And we want to be compensated for that.
Okay, several billion, that's a big number. Presumably, but you're also going up against government who will take their time and in no rush, and it's going to cost you money to kind of go through a legal process. Are you working independently with that, or are you going in with Reinhardt and others to get after the government as a collective? I mean, how's it working?
Yeah, look, it's complex, but we are independent. We remain independent. As different groups, there are 4 companies that I know of that have launched legal action against the government, and it's actually quite advanced now. There's a process to go through. Witness statements are being made, and by February next year they'll be heard by the the court appointed judge. It's hard to say where all that's going, Matt. You know, we're doing our best. We're funding that currently through shareholder funds. We are seeking to separate our two assets or our two asset classes and fund the coal separately. So fund the coal litigation separately to the power.
Okay, well, I was going to get to that because that is going to, you know, time is money and all of that sort of stuff, and lawyers aren't cheap. So between now and, you said, next February, when there'll be a court hearing, your case will be heard. Yeah.
Oh, look, it's got a long way to go beyond that, Matt. That's just the initial. That's just the initial evidence that has to be produced at that point.
But so how do you finance it? We'll come to the hydro in a second, I promise. That's the exciting bit. But how do you finance a long, drawn-out process like that without, you know, going and tearing through shareholder money and going back to the shareholders and say, hey, give me some more money, we've got this court?
Yeah, so
it feels like the only winners are lawyers in that case, right?
Well, I think that our shareholders ultimately will be saying, you know, our case will be right. We've had our assets taken from us. So there is compensation. There is valid compensation to be paid there. We would like the government to see the sense in compensating us earlier rather than later. But as I said, it's a legal claim, and these things take a process. So how do we fund it? Right now, as I said, we're funding it with shareholder funds. As you know, we're launching a pre-IPO funding package right now, a placement to sophisticated investors, and part of those funds will go to paying that legal action through February, March, and then we'll reassess that. There is funding available to the company. We've worked really hard with several litigation funders. We have multiple offers that we're assessing and negotiating right now with specific litigation funding companies that offer this both here and in the International Court of Arbitration, and we're considering that. And as I said, we sort of want to see how the evidence plays out between now and February, and then if the government acts, and then if not, we'll reassess how we're going to do that. In the meantime, we will split our two asset classes, and we'll fund separately the power and the coal.
Okay, I appreciate you can't say much. So there are some options on the table in terms around financing, and obviously we've heard of some of these mechanisms before. And you've got to believe, the board has got to believe, shareholders have got to believe that there's a value. You're going after them for the Alberta provincial government for several billions. You'll have to get to a number, but I suspect they won't be going for the higher end of that. But there will be a number which, if you are successful in your case, and there is a number paid up by the Albertan provincial government, how does that work for existing shareholders, given you're about to split the two companies up?
Yeah, so this funding raise right now will be the last time that shareholders can invest in the company in both assets at the same time. Subsequent to this raise, we will then separate the two entities and effectively ring fence at that time the shareholdings in the power and in the coal company, and then separately go and raise capital how we can for each asset class. For power, we're going to IPO the business on a TSX feed. We'll get to talk about that. For coal, we'll assess that at the time. But ultimately, the shareholders will if we win a legal battle, or if we settle a claim, then those, at this time, the board considers that those funds should be distributed to shareholders.
Okay. I appreciate it's a difficult one at this time. Does that mean that you would then, if you were successful and you were paid and agreed to a certain amount, and you were paid that amount, you distribute that to shareholders? Would you then close that ASX company down? Would that be the end of it?
Correct. So we're no longer listed on the ASX, but it's a public Australian company with several hundred shareholders.
Yeah.
Those shareholders are waiting to see the outcome of this legal battle, and Okay. Some of them have invested in the company subsequent to us announcing that we're changing to the power, and we'll want to chase that. And others just are interested in the coal and the existing assets and whatever compensation will be paid ultimately.
Okay, well let's park that up for now, because obviously I'm hopefully you'll come back on and as things develop and get into a bit more detail for us. So let's move to Evolve.
Is it?
It's going to be listed on TSXV. It's a pumped hydro energy storage project with industrial battery storage as well. So kind of got two lines of revenue there potentially. So where are you with that? You've been working on it for some time now. So where have you got to?
Yeah, so we've been investing in that really for a couple of years now. And in the middle of last year, so July, August 2022, we produced the first really solid study on the pump hydro business at Mountain, and it proved to be really quite exciting and valuable. It also came with a pretty hefty price tag to develop it. And so we went to the market to sell a part of that and to gain a partner. And we successfully did that in April this year. We closed a sale of 50% of that business to Shareholder Corporation. Shareholder are one of Canada's largest power companies. They're the incumbent hydroelectricity producer in Alberta. And they've stepped in as a highly credentialed and capable partner with us to run that project. So we're 50-50 joint venture or partnership in that. They're running it. We're very excited to have them as a partner, and over the next couple of years, they'll finish the engineering, get the permits, and go to a final investment decision. In fact, last week we had up on site ministers from the government of Alberta surveying the site with Shareholder and us. We had some very senior members of the closest First Nation, the Bugani Nation, sent some senior councillors and elders up to survey the site, as well as the local council on the Mare. It was a great day on the hill to see what we're doing. We've been very active up there this summer, completing the requisite geotech drilling and seismic survey. It's quite ironic that we're up there drilling, and the first hole that we drilled for where the power station's going is we, of course, hit coal. But nevertheless, that program's done. Shareholder are in the marketplace now, securing the relevant engineering firms to take that project forward, and talking to the OEMs on the turbines. And it's moving along quite fast, actually, for a large infrastructure project. We're very, very excited about its potential. And we've learned a lot as a small, nimble company here in Calgary, Alberta, about what this electricity market is, and it's quite unique. And that set us up for our next business that we're investing in right now. It's nascent, it's early days, but we're very, very excited about the potential. And what that is energy storage again. So we're buying electricity cheap, we're selling it high. There's a number of other revenue streams that come with energy storage for grid stability. And the unique thing about Alberta is that it is the only electricity grid in Canada, and indeed one of the only two in North America that is fully sort of deregulated and commoditized. So it's an energy-only market. You produce power and sell it in 5-minute increments, and that creates volatility. And that volatility affords the opportunity to store that power, buy when it's cheap, sell it when it's high, and play that arbitrage and make money doing it.
Okay, so with the deal that you say, I want to talk about the deal with TransAlta. So that involved like $25 million in upfront and stage payments to kind of get you through a process to kind of take you to which point. Where does it get you?
So we sold it for 50% for a headline price of just short of 25 million Canadian, so 24.0 million. They paid us 7.7 million on closing of the deal in April, and we reinvested those. We paid out some existing from the original deal that we did when we bought the assets in 2016. We had to pay the original loans. We've done that, and then we reinvested the rest of that money back into the project. The next series of payments come on milestones that we expect in 2025, and we have to invest half of the requisite funds between now and the end of 2025 into 2026 to get to a final investment decision with TransAlta. That'll be predicated on locking in the cost and getting a EPC contractor on board, and most likely selling the first tranche of the project's life of its power through a power purchase agreement. Those things that will be negotiated in the future once costs are known and locking in revenue certainty will allow that project to be financed.
Right, because what I'm working towards is trying to work out what type of company I would be investing into. So obviously the pumped hydro energy storage project, in terms of pumping water up a hill at a certain part of the day, and then letting it run back down and creating that energy to sell into the market. I get it, but you've given away 50% of the company, or sold 50% of the company here.
We didn't give it
Once
away.
you get to investment decision, you're going to have to raise the capital for that through and fund it however you want. I'm trying to work out how much will you be left with of that project, and what's that potentially worth to you versus the learnings from that. Can you replicate it elsewhere? And then you're talking about a new bit of technology and a new product here in the shape of this industrial battery storage as well. It's like, what's the end game for you? What type of company are you trying to create here? This isn't like a one-off project, I hope.
No, not at all, Matt. So we're an energy storage project. Company. We're a project and a company. We're one project and more to come. And I'll explain that in a minute with the battery storage. You sort of asked, can it be replicated? Yes, pump hydro projects can be built around the world, but each one is quite unique to its particular geography and its electricity market. The pump hydro energy storage at Ted Mountain is unique because of its existing geography and geomorphological assets. Like, it's an old coal mine. It has a large body of water high up in the Rocky Mountains with no fish, and it's 8 kilometres to connect it to the electricity grid. That is unusual, and therefore it's valuable. How valuable is it? Well, Transol are only willing to pay $25 million for the first 50%, but we expect the value of our project pre-construction to be a significant multiple of that number. Once together as a team, we spend another $20 or so million on developing it up to financial close. At that point, the company will make a decision as to whether or not it wants to own it and build it, or it wants to sell it. And that'll be a decision for our board at a future in a couple of years' time. At that point, as I said, we think that'll be a significant multiple of that existing $25 million price tag on the first 50% because of risk, right? It's now completely de-risked. You've got an EPC locked in on cost. You've got a PPA locked in on revenue. We're now talking to pension funds about what the value is. In the meantime, as a business, we are developing what we believe is, well, one, it's very exciting, and two, it's incredibly opportunistic and has a large capacity to grow fast on deploying industrial scale batteries to industrial loads that are chewing up electricity at a rate of $1 million or more a month. And we can significantly reduce their cost of electricity by installing a battery, running their power system, so buying and selling electricity for them and leveling that price.
Right, but here's a question. 2 minutes ago, you're doing coal, and now you're battery experts. I mean, what gives you the right to say that you're going to be capable of doing this?
Sure, it's not 2 minutes ago. It's happened over 2 years, and as a company, we've had to develop those capabilities. So we've retained some significant experts here in Alberta. We have been joined on the board by our Chief Development Officer, Will Bridge, who you met here a few months ago. Will has put together a really strong team of power experts here in Alberta. We've got both capability in-house now through that retained contractor model of people who've run trading floors on electricity before, who've built these things for large electricity companies and are out on their own, and joining with us to create this company. It's fair to say, like, why do you guys have the capability to do it? One is we're buying that capability, and two is the opportunity is extraordinary. Like, electricity prices have doubled here in the last 3 years, and the volatility is growing, and it's growing because they've switched off coal-fired power. No one has the gumption to build new gas-fired power stations because the federal government is pushing them out of the market, really, with their carbon pricing. So we've got we've taken away baseload power here in Alberta, and they're replacing it with renewable power. And renewable power is whilst it's great, and benefits all of us in that it doesn't create carbon dioxide, it does create volatility. So it's only on when the wind's blowing and the sun's shining, and it's off. And there is the opportunity right there in storing that power. And that's what this business is setting up to do.
When will you be able to give us a sense of the size of the opportunity? Because clearly scale matters all the time, economics matter all the time.
Sure.
How long before you can give us a sense of that?
So the point in the market that we're targeting is that sort of 10 to 20 megawatt battery. So somewhere around $25 to $30 million deployment. There are 200 identified customers. At the moment, we're negotiating with 4 of them. We hope to sign the first MOU before the end of the year from those 4 customers, and sometime next year be buying our first battery. We're sort of technology agnostic, if you like. It's not about the technology of a new battery or anything else. We will use most likely lithium-ion batteries from a big nameplate supplier to start this business. And the key for us is that commercialization of this idea is taking our trading group and our engineering group and finding that first customer. And as soon as that first customer starts, we believe we can triple that within the first 2 years. And in fact, by the time we reach a investment decision on the pump hydro, we believe the battery business will be more valuable than the pump hydro. So it's that kind of business, Matt. I reckon we're selling this pre-IPO at around about 17 million Canadian total market cap, and I believe we're a 10 bagger within 2 years.
Okay, and so if people are interested in this, where can they get that information?
They can contact the company directly at info@evolvepower.ca. They can contact me directly, or we can put a link up on the website to get that. We've already got a significant contribution to this pre-IPO. It's we're raising $1.5 million at 5 cents Canadian. The existing major shareholders and the board have all pitched in already, and we've covered half of that. Canaccord Genuity here in Calgary are our lead manager of that pre-IPO, and indeed will be the lead manager of our IPO. And we expect to be ready. We're going to put this to a shareholder vote to split the 2 assets at the end of November. We expect that to be carried, and our major shareholders are certainly very eager for it to happen. And we've been in contact with all our shareholders to let us know that this is coming. We're opening this up, I guess, to new sophisticated investors if they want to have a look at a pure play renewable energy company that's moving really rapidly to commercialization. We think that we're selling really good value at this pre-IPO number, and I expect that the IPO will be priced significantly higher.